Well, I'm really bored on a Monday night, and I kind of wanted to start a YouTube channel about my build, so figured I'd just make my first video tonight. I'm gonna basically just do a full recap or explanation of where this build started from and like what the build is supposed to be. So I'm doing a LS VTEC turbo build. This is not the original car that I planned on using for it. This is actually a shell that I just bought all the way from a different state. Buddy helped me tow it with his truck because I don't have a truck. This is the B18 B1 block, so a non-VTEC block. I pulled it. I pulled this, the whole engine. I pulled everything from a fully functioning Integra, but that thing, which is sitting out in the parking lot, and I'm not about to walk all the way out there. That thing is very rusty. And basically, when I initially started the build, I did not really care about aesthetics at all. Just cared about going fast, but over the course of months, I guess I had a change of heart and I decided I wanted both. I wanted a generally good-looking car. Doesn't even have to be perfect. I just wanted a decent looking car, doesn't have rotted panels or anything, and also wanted a good powerhouse. So I went and picked up this shell from Illinois. The thing with that, the Integra that I started with, is the quarter panels, which Hondas are obviously very well known for having rusty quarter panels. That's just one of the worst spots that they get rust in of all time. But so the owner of that shell, or that car, which is now a shell, obviously, because I pulled the engine, everything out of it. But the previous owner, the guy that owned it before me, started I don't want to say rust repair because it's not a repair, but he just started to basically plaster over all the rust with Bondo. And so there's still rust under the Bondo, and you can see the rust literally eating through it because he never finished the job before I bought the car. The car was a really strong runner. The engine and trans were awesome. It drove really well. I actually really enjoyed driving the car around before I started pulling it apart. Was originally just going to use that car for everything, and I was like, I want something that's not rusted to shit. Yeah, that's where this shell came into play that I just bought. Pushed the old car out into the parking lot with nothing in it because everything is sitting in my garage. I know this place is an absolute disaster. I'm getting a storage unit soon, which will help me with space issues a lot. Like all this extra stuff, all the parts that I'm not going to need for a while, they're all sitting around. Can go in the storage unit because this garage, there's not a whole lot of room. Just to recap what I said before, this is the B18 B1 non-VTEC engine, and I bought this GSR P72-2 head. It's actually, I bought this from another guy. It came already built for me, not fully built, still stock valves, but it has the Brian Crower, I don't know how to say it, but it has the Brian whatever titanium valve spring and retainer kit on stock valves. So that's really cool. $350 for that. It just didn't come with the valve cover hardware, so I had to buy that elsewhere, which is not a huge deal because I think $350 for a head with a $500 valve spring and retainer kit is a pretty good deal. Still got to take some of the stuff off the block, like the alternator. I'm thinking about sending this block into CSS, cylinder support system, for pretty much everything, like the bore and hone, because I'm going oversizing the pistons. I'm going to be going at least a half millimeter over. That's at least because the stock is 81 mil. So I'm thinking about going 81.5 millimeters. So I'm thinking about sending it in just for the full thing from them because I hear good things about CSS. So I could get their special block guard thing, whatever they call it. I could get their block guard. I could get the deck resurfaced because I am an idiot. And when I was pulling the engine out, I accidentally scratched the deck with the intake manifold. So that definitely need, like, regardless, it needs a resurface because I scratched it. Yeah, so I could basically get the full service, and then the hone and bore, the deck resurface, all that for a price, and the block guard for I think it's like $750, but then I also have to pay for shipping too. I just need to borrow an impact to get the crank bolt out, and then I can remove the crankshaft so it's ready to get shipped out and get the crank polished if I need to. I imagine I probably will end up doing that anyway. But yeah, I am a poor sap and I don't have an impact. I really need to get one because it'd be a lot easier than just borrowing one from a friend whenever I need one. It would just make things, although it's a huge hit on the wallet for a good one, but an electric, I'm implying electric because I don't have an air compressor. Pulset HX35 Turbo has no shaft play, $90. If it blows up or whatever, don't care. So I just guess I'll give you a tour of the shell. So I got the shell for $650 from Illinois. It's not perfect. As you can see, there's a bunch of primer on the rear side over here. It needs paint, and it's pretty much good to go in terms of the body. This is what I got for the interior. It's a little bit dirty. I don't really know what. It just looks like a bunch of stuff that needs to get wiped off. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like dried fluids. And he has this thing. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get that off. I hope I can, because I really don't want it there. I'm planning on probably running a tablet instead of, I don't know, I could run, because I am probably gonna be running Hondata with a P20. From all the research I've done so far, my plan is to get a P28 ECU, and then I'll have to wire up the VTEC wiring for the head, because the wiring harness for the non-VTEC block, the B18, B1 block that I'm going to be using, obviously doesn't have VTEC wiring because it's the non-VTEC engine. So I got to do my own wiring for the VTEC, which isn't too hard from what I understand. Instead of running all the gauges and stuff, which I could do, he kind of already has this pillar installed. I don't really want to run that. I was thinking about getting like a tablet, because I think there's a way to do that with Hondata. I'm not sure. I'll kind of have to look into it, but it'd be cool if I could just get like one of those things where you can just snap a tablet into the center and you have all your gauges. Came with a quick release steering wheel. It's pretty decent. I also really like the aesthetic of the stock steering wheel, like the black leather one, just like the normal Acura Integra steering wheel. I like the aesthetic of that. With that being said, it's not super critical because obviously this thing's going to be running the full racing harness, so I don't know if an airbag is that critical, but I do have this quick release steering wheel. Probably not going to take it off. And then it has one of the previous owners, I don't know if it was the previous owner or the one before him, but they started to I am 99% sure they were trying to start wiring for speakers and never finished the job, and they just left the wires dangling under the dash, because there's all this that was sitting right down here is all this extra wiring just sitting there. But yeah, the interior is not bad at all. It looks like a lot of stuff is just like this weird dried like liquids, like dirty liquids that dried onto the interior, need to get wiped off. I was thinking about swapping the interior from the other Integra into this one, but I could just leave this interior too, because this interior is also pretty clean. But this is my plan right now, but we'll see how much I actually care later if I get too lazy. But this shell is actually manual swapped, and it has the master cylinder, which I'll just pull the hood. Ugh. But as you can see, so it's manual swapped, but it still has the automatic gauge cluster. They never swapped that out. So I was looking to pull the dash anyway, especially because I kind of want to figure out what's going on with all that wiring. And I need to fully pull the old wiring, the old engine wiring harness out, because I want to just use the one that I have in my other Integra that I want to use the wiring harness that came with all the stuff that I pulled out just to make it easier instead of playing a guessing game. That's pretty much how I think of it. Oh. But as you can see, it has the master cylinder right there. It just doesn't have the clutch line, which is not a big deal because all I have to do is basically drain the fluid from the other Integra. I guess I'll find out when I try. This is kind of the mess of a engine harness that I was left with, which is kind of why I'm not 100% certain. The guy said, previous owner said it is a B18 B1 engine harness. Doesn't look at all like the engine harness from my Integra, despite it being the same motor, so that's kind of why I just want to pull mine. AC and power steering are already completely deleted. The shell actually came with a manual steering rack, so I do not have to worry about that at all. Because I was actually going to run power steering. I have the power steering in the other Integra fully intact. If I were to put the engine back in this and everything and hook it back up, the power steering would still be functioning. This car has a manual steering rack, so I guess I'm just going to leave it that way. I'm not even going to bother with power steering this, honestly. I'm perfectly fine with just having a manual rack. I don't have a magnet on me right now, but to verify that this is in fact a fully intact rear quarter panel, I stuck a magnet all along the perimeter of all this, and it is solid as hell. There is no rotting holes anywhere. This is on both sides, by the way, but a magnet sticks perfectly all around, so I know there is definitely completely intact metal there. It has not been molested with Bondo or repaired or anything, so it's not rotted out. That's good to know. As you can see, by the way, it doesn't have the lights installed. He pulled a lot of stuff for the paint. Previous owner, I think he bought it with some hail damage, but there's a lot of random, like a lot of it's like back here, and then he's got a bunch of random spots all around. But I'm pretty sure he bought it with hail damage. He took all the paint off in those areas so he could then fix the small hail dents, and then he was going to properly finish the paint, but he had the car in his boss's shop. The boss decided that he couldn't have it in there anymore for whatever reason, so the boss just pushed it out of the shop. And in a panic moment, he decided to cover all the raw metal spots with primer to get like somewhat of a seal from moisture so it didn't rust or anything. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to be sanding. I'm going to be taking all this primer off and then basically just touching up every rough spot of the paint pretty much. This is actually going to be my first time painting, but I have at least some knowledge to fall back on how to paint. Basically, just don't be an idiot and spend a lot of time and focus on prep work. You should have good results if you do that. That's pretty much what I know. So if I follow that formula, I should hopefully turn out all right. Because it's way better to just do the paint job right the first time and spend a lot of time on prep work one time. It's either that or you're gonna have to do another paint job pretty much. So shell also came with suspension already taken care of for me, and this exhaust, which I'm probably gonna scrap. I'm pretty sure it's some really cheap brand, so I'm probably just gonna end up scrapping that and running something a little bit nicer. But yeah, it came with suspension already installed. It's on H&R lowering springs. It's on shocks I can't remember the brand of, and it's got the colored lower control arms in the rear, not in the front, just in the rear. But regardless, that's nice because now I don't even have to worry about suspension either. These actually have halo lights in them instead of the stock lights. So if I can get these cleaned off, they're super dirty. If I can get them cleaned off, I'm probably going to run those instead because that'd be pretty cool. I also originally had to buy new wheels because the wheels that came with that Integra were very cheap, really crappy wheels that I did not want to run for a higher power build because I'm pretty sure they were cheap knockoffs just by the looks of them. And they were ugly as hell, so I really didn't want to use them regardless of how structurally sound they actually are. I don't want ugly wheels, but it came with these. These look a lot better than the other ones, but yeah, the underbody of this shell is in really good condition. It does have some rusty spots, but in terms of body panels, really solid. I can tell you right now that a lot of the work I'm going to have to do is not nearly as much work as I would have to do on the other one to fix all the rust, because that thing is just eaten alive by salt. The rear quarters are completely just gone. So I don't even want to worry about that. This is a lot easier. Plus it came with a lot of stuff that I already needed to buy anyway. Like the suspension, the wheels, all that. It came with power steering, AC deleted manual steering rack. For about 8 hours of driving and $650 later, I think I made the right choice. Basic parts list rundown. I'm going to be running Wiseco pistons, Manley H-beam rods. Judging from the full parts list is really long, but judging by the parts list that I have, I should be able to push 450, 500 maybe. At least 400 bare minimum with the parts list I have. I will definitely be able to hit at least 400, if not more. I'll definitely shoot for more because with these power numbers, I'm obviously going to a reputable tuner. I have one in mind that I'm probably going to be going to for those of you in the Appleton area or the Fox Valley in general. VL Performance. I've heard a lot of good things about them. Probably going to be going to them for my tuning solutions. The front bumper that came with the car is very messed up. I will definitely not be running this. It's very not aesthetically pleasing to literally have stitches on your bumper. So I'm opting out of running this bumper. Sorry, there's just so much shit falling over right now. This is the rear bumper, which is actually fully intact. It just, I don't really know what this paint job is. I'm definitely going to be repainting this because it's kind of looks like somebody took a literal paintbrush and painted it. So that's kind of weird. Definitely going to be repainting the rear bumper, but at least it's fully intact and not cracked or anything. Not sure about the front bumper. It's just got a lot of cracks and stuff, which I actually have a really badly messed up front bumper on my other Integra 2. I did that myself, so I can't even pull that one off and reuse it because that one is damaged too. So I basically have to order a new one or go to a junkyard. I'm gonna take my tired ass to bed, and I guess when I acquire new parts and start putting things together or whatever, I'll make another video. But for now, there's not much else I can do with the car because I don't really have any more parts yet until I order them. I'm kind of doing this on a paycheck by paycheck basis, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so videos will not be able to come until I get more parts and whatever else. So for now, this is how it's gonna sit for at least a couple weeks. But yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one.